when I want to say I was 19, I was really overweight. I think at that point I'd gained like 80 something pounds. It was to the point where it's like, I can't even find a picture because I completely avoided a camera. Like there's one and it's just my head and it's pretty bad, but that's it. And I remember it was the weekend of my friend's birthday, and she said she wanted to have a party and she was going to invite a bunch of people from high school. And immediately I just felt like a complete sense of anxiety wash over me because I thought, oh my gosh, I looked so much better then, but I've like spiraled into gaining all of this weight. And I felt like, oh gosh, I really hope I don't run into anybody. And so the weekend comes and, it's the start of the party. I think we're pre-gaming, whatever. People are coming in. Nobody's saying anything, right? And it's like this big, for me, it felt like an elephant in the room. Like, hi, I haven't seen you since I gained 80 pounds, right? Like, I am aware of this. And nobody was saying anything. It was all going as planned. Like, it felt fine. And then it was probably close to the end of the night, and I went to go to the bathroom, and I walked through the hallway, and there was this guy that I'd been friends with in high school who was there. And I saw him, and I was like, oh, hey. And he was like, hey. And he was like, man, such a shame. And I was like, what? And I just like in that moment knew he was going to say something. And he's like, dang, he's like, it was so crude. But it was like, it's really just a shame because like you used to be so hot, but you're just so fat. And I was like, wow. And in that moment, all I felt was like white hot, like your eyes see red, like white hot rage. And funny enough, it was not at him at all. It was completely at myself, because my first thought after he said it was, I agree, you're right, I would. And it was like, I couldn't even be mad at the guy, because I'm like, what are you doing, stating the facts? Like, I'm aware as well. And I left early and I went home, and I just felt so compelled to do something. I remember I got on Facebook, because Facebook was cool at the time, and I made a post that was like, I'm done. I'm done partying. You're not going to see me. I have to go work on some things. Like, I'm out. It was just this ominous, very vague post. And that was the day I woke up the next morning and I threw out all the food in my house that was junk. I literally drove to Planet Fitness, joined Planet Fitness Gym, and then I said, I'm done drinking. It was like, in that instant, I made this decision where I thought to myself, it just felt like it was a deviation from the path I was on, being that overweight. And in that moment, I felt like, am I gonna let this get worse? Am I gonna show up 2 years from now at a party? What am I gonna be, 400 pounds? Because like, if we continue to go down this path at the rate I've gained weight, that's what would happen. And that thought, when I had that, where I was like, what if I were to show up in that many years and be, what's stopping me from that? Why stop now? You keep gaining weight, what's gonna stop? And I just thought, it was so unacceptable of a thought to me. I was like, that cannot be my future. It was so terrifying that I felt like I had to immediately change in that moment. And that's been something that's served me so much throughout my life, which is like, there are times when incremental change makes sense. And then there are times when there's so much inertia in one direction, the wrong direction, that I think you need to just completely put a stop to it. And in that moment, that was one of those. I was like, we need to go snowball in the other direction. And so instead of like, let me just slowly make life, I was like, screw it. Everything goes out the window today. New Leila. I am no longer who I was. I am now this new person. You eat well. You don't hang out with people who drink all the time. You don't do drugs all the time. And you work out. And it was really hard and terrifying because I had not been out of shape before. But going into a gym being overweight was so hard for me. Like walking in there, feeling like everyone was staring at me, feeling like I was out of shape, saying no to all of the social things I'd been going to and drinking at, it was really hard for me. I didn't know how to say no to people and say like, that's not what's best for me right now. And then basically I ended up actually moving out of the house I was in because I lived with 5, 6 other roommates in a house. And I felt like that environment is not one that is conducive with the future that I want. And I don't think staying here is going to help me reach my goals. And so I moved out, and the last, I think, year and a half that I was in college, I lived by myself, which is like unheard of, you know, especially for a woman. But I just didn't know another way that I could like cold turkey stop. I needed to change my environment.